Hello friends, we're going to continue learning about the gifts of trees. And this book, in a nutshell, takes the life cycle of a tree, starting from an acorn until it grows up into a great big oak tree. This book is by Joseph Anthony, and it really makes you appreciate the gift of trees and the hard work of its animal helpers, squirrels and chipmunks, who plant so many trees. They're a real partner to the trees. Dawn sparkled on the great forest. Look at that light shining down through the canopy to the ground. High in the treetops, plump acorns were leaving their sunlit home and falling into the darkness below. One little acorn wanted to stay in the light forever, but it soon lost its grip and it fell too. It fell down, down, down to the forest floor. A moment later, it landed with a thump and it lay still. The forest floor was very, very dark, and we can see all kinds of our decomposer pals and animals that live on the forest floor. Worms, and here we have a harvestman spider. We have a salamander, so many animals. And we see different plants, fungi and lichen that help to take dead wood and dead leaves and break it down, eat it up and poop it out to create new rich soil for seeds to get planted in the forest floor. Somewhere deep inside, the little acorn knew it must get back to the sunlight. It would have to break free of its shell and become bigger than it was. So we can see a little frost on these leaves on the ground. So when the season was right in the spring, the acorn burst open. It pushed out roots and a stem and stretched itself into a tiny sapling. So this little acorn has split open. Remember, we call that germination, because the germ of the seed has cracked open. And the baby tree that was sleeping inside now can grow up toward the sun, and the root will grow down, down, down in the soil and will suck up food and water from the soil. And then here we see the stem of the plant. The little start of a stem was inside too, and that stem will become the trunk and branches of the tree. The sapling took food from the wet soil. It soaked up every drop of light its tiny leaves could reach and grew a little more each day. Remember, those leaves with their green chlorophyll cells will absorb the sun's light, and they'll breathe in that carbon dioxide, that bad air we breathe out, and it will take up water and food from the soil, and it will manufacture food through that process of photosynthesis, making energy from sunlight. And look what we see on our little sapling. We see a praying mantis who will help the little tree by eating pests that might cause harm to the tree. There are many different types of animal helpers in our world. As days passed into years, the sapling discovered that becoming an oak wasn't easy. Hungry mouths nibbled it. Here we see different types of pests. We've got some kind of caterpillar climbing on here, eating the leaves. And here we see vines growing on the plant, and we see our hummingbirds sipping the nectar and gathering the pollen from this honeysuckle vine. Each part has a job to do in Mother Earth. Sometimes you're a pest that's eaten by a predator, like our birds and different bugs eat other bugs, or spiders or grubs or worms, and they help to keep life in balance on Mother Earth. They have predator-prey relationships, and sometimes they have plant and animal partnerships. Sometimes it was icy cold, and we see our chickadees and our some kind of woodpecker on there, and we see Mrs. Mourning Dove down here. At other times, it was burning hot. We see a lot of forest fires in some parts of our world because it's been so dry and they haven't had enough rain, and the animals run to safety. But sometimes fire is needed to restore or refresh a forest because some seeds need to go through fire in order to grow. We just want our little animal friends to get into a safe place. Hard times helped make the sapling strong as it grew into a tree. Yet even the strongest trees weren't safe from everything. Here we see these folks are cutting down trees to build their log cabin. This was a long, long time ago. Still, it kept on growing and reaching for the sun. Look at how big the canopy of the tree is. It has thousands and thousands of leaves that are absorbing that sun's light and manufacturing food to help the tree grow bigger every day. And then as they manufacture that food to help the tree grow through that process of photosynthesis, they breathe out oxygen for us to breathe in. Years passed. What was once a small acorn became the tallest tree in the forest, with deep roots and sturdy branches, so sturdy that these kids can hang a swing and enjoy playing with the tree. Countless leaves touched the sunlight. They turned the light into life that filled the tree and flowed over. Look at, here's that log cabin. To many, the tree gave a home. It became habitat for a wide range of different animals that made their homes, like our squirrel in this cavity nest that we call a dray. We see these turkeys, wild turkeys, eating the acorns as an important food source. And here we see different birds that are nesting. Here's a cedar waxwing feeding her babies. So all of these animals and so many more depend on this tree for their home and shelter and food. So it dropped acorns of its own, giving life to new little oak trees and food for the forest creatures, like the turkeys, the squirrels, the chipmunks. So many animals depend on trees for their lives. But when it was old and tired and its limbs and roots were rotten, the mighty tree could grow no more. Its life as an oak was almost over. We can see the branches are starting to break off and fall to the ground. And we see on those branches green velvety moss and lichens are growing on them. They'll absorb water when it rains and soften that hard wood that was once the tree, soften it so worms and roly-polies and other decomposer animals can chew it up and poop out new rich soil. They create new soil on the forest floor. Even when a tree dies, it has new purpose in the forest. Here we see this upright dead tree that we call a snag. And this snag is full of all kinds of homes for animals who make cavity nests. See all these holes? Raccoons and birds and squirrels and sometimes snakes and bats will make their home until that snag gets uprooted and falls to the ground and becomes a log. And then when it becomes a log and is uprooted, it has a new purpose in the forest. Nothing is ever wasted. The death of one thing becomes new life for another, shelter and food source. The only way for it to become bigger than it was now was to die. And we even see our log cabin has aged too. The roof is collapsing. It's an old house and an old tree. When the tree fell, its crash shook the whole forest. See, it got struck by lightning, and then the wind will blow, uproot it. Now it's a log on the forest floor, and we see all these decomposer plants and animals have a new job to help take the tree's life and return it to the soil. We see worms and bugs and slugs and grubs. We see lichens and fungi, centipedes, mosses. All of these decomposer plants and animals have a very important job on Mother Earth, taking dead plants and sometimes animals and chewing them up and pooping out that new rich soil to enrich the soil for more plants to grow. Finally, the tree becomes a pile of rich, dark earth. No one remembered that it was once a living tree grown from an acorn. And look at, a new log cabin is moving here where the old cabin used to be. It seemed that the oak was gone forever when another tree was planted there. See, this family moved in and now they're planting a new tree. And now we see it is covered with flowers, which will send out their sweet smell to attract pollinator pals, bees and butterflies, to produce the fruits, which contain the seeds of this new tree. We see the bluebird of happiness and Mrs. Robin. All of these animals will come and take shelter and find food from the gift of this new tree. The life of the oak passed from the soil into the new tree, a cherry tree. And so the old bark and soil that was broken down by the decomposers now is part of the dirt that the new tree was grown in, and it gives the energy for the new tree to grow. I think that's pretty special. When the cherry tree grew up, birds ate the fruit, scattered cherry seeds in their droppings. We know that's poop. They plant a lot of new plants too. Pooping here, pooping there, pooping everywhere. And new life all through the forest. And look at, our friends are picking cherries too, just like when we read our story about the pie tree. Until the life of the little acorn became part of everything. And now they're sitting around their beautiful dining room table and enjoying a piece of pie. Thanks to the good works of our bee buddies who pollinated the flowers on that cherry tree to produce those cherries for our animal friends and for us to enjoy. That is the life cycle of a tree in a nutshell. And as you look in your big backyard, or if you go out to McNaughton Park, you're going to see all kinds of different trees that are living out their life cycle in that important forest habitat and the forest floor below it. If you walk on those paths out in the woods and around the ponds and streams, you'll see lots of little holes in the ground where different animals make their homes. You'll see dead trees that are now snags. They're like apartment buildings for other animals to move in. And you'll see lots of uprooted trees that bit by bit get broken down through the good work of our decomposer pals, plants and animals that process the dead plant material to become new, rich soil for new seeds to get planted in. This is Mother Earth's plan for our beautiful Earth and for new plants to always be able to grow.